this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today I have a very special treat for you. What we're going to do is we're going to pit the Omega 8006 against the Omega Vert 350 HD. And what we're going to do today is a good old-fashioned juice off. And today what we're going to juice are some sprouts. So we got some sunflower sprouts here, about a pound of sprouts in each of these packages. Now these sprouts were provided to me by GotSprouts.com. GotSprouts.com will ship you fresh cut sprouts, like overnight it to you every day of the week. So if you're on a juicing program and you don't want to buy your sprouts locally or can't find them, they will ship them to you. That being said, they will also teach you how to grow your own sprouts at home, which is very economical and very inexpensive. You can even grow your sprouts year-round inside your house, in your kitchen, without any accessory lighting. So, now you can grow sprouts like this and juice these. You could think of sprouts like little baby vegetables. They are powerhouses of nutrition, and you could grow them in your kitchen. So I think that everybody should start doing that today. But today what we're going to find out is which one of these machines will reign supreme when juicing approximately 1 pound of sunflower greens. And that's what these are today. Now in the past I've recommended that if you want to juice a lot of greens, including sprouts, you get the Omega 8006 machine because it just does it better. So both these machines are single auger style machines and they work very similar, but they're just a little bit different. So let me go ahead and take these apart and show you the similarities and the differences. So this is the vertical auger juicer here. We're going to go ahead and pull off the top, and this is the horizontal auger machine here. Both these work with an auger system and the screen basically. So here's the auger and the screen for this machine. This is a nice narrow auger and longer screen. This is a 2-stage juicing screen. Stage 1's here, stage 2 here. The auger spins, and as the auger spins, the food is in there. It gets basically compressed down into a smaller and smaller space where the juice is literally wrung out of the produce. On the same token, the vertical auger works the same way. Once again, we have that same auger here, and then we have the screen. Around the screen we actually have an automatic cleaning system or blade that is like the windshield wipers on your car. This keeps the screen clean, so this may also increase the yield. This also is a 2-stage, so on the initial press, juice comes out of these top holes and then out of these bottom holes. So if we hold these side by side, I mean, pretty much they're the same. So this one's short and stubby, and this one is long and skinny. I think I like them long and skinny a little bit better. But nonetheless, you see these are basically the same design, just the format they're in. This one takes a lot smaller footprint. That's actually how much counter space it's going to take on your counter. So if you're in the middle of New York City in a small apartment, you don't have a lot of space, this might be the machine for you, unless you want to juice a lot of wheatgrass and sprouts. But you know what? I'm going to shut my trap and we're going to start juicing to figure out which machine is going to reign supreme. So let's go ahead and put these machines back together. And while I'm putting them back together, they are very easy to assemble and disassemble. Anybody could assemble the 8006 with their eyes closed. And actually just the other day I had a customer email me, John, I just got the juicer and I was so excited to use it, and it was the weekend, and then I put it together and it didn't work. And I said, well, did you watch my video on how to assemble it properly? Because the instruction book is in 2 dimensions, and we live in actually a 3-dimensional world. So the instruction book is not quite clear as it could be, because you could put this machine together incorrectly. Even though it'll look right, it won't come on. So what they probably did is they put this top and put it on backwards. You know, if you put this top backwards on like this, like, oh yeah, that looks good. Hey, it doesn't come on. That's because you didn't properly assemble it. So I have a detailed assembly instruction, so you want to pay attention to that. The other thing that's very important on the Vert is that, this has what I call a higher learning curve. Like the first time you jumped into a stick shift car, if you drive a manual transmission car, you probably just didn't jump in and take off and go. Well, I know some of you guys now are saying, well, I did. So maybe you're the kind of person that would do better with a Vert if you pick up and learn things fast. But the Vert has a higher learning curve, which means you need to learn how to operate it correctly. So much like that manual transmission, there are certain intricacies of the juicer that you need to follow that are actually not mentioned in the instruction book. So I have several good videos on YouTube explaining the intricacies and how to properly use the Omega Vert juicer. So before purchasing an Omega Vert juicer, I highly recommend you watch a few of those videos so that you know what you're getting into and how to use it properly. Because if you don't, that's the #1 reason why people are not satisfied with a Vert, because it's just user error. Like if you're trying to use the computer and you hit the wrong buttons, you could delete your whole hard drive. And you're going to blame that on the computer? So anyways, once the customer watched the video with proper assembly instructions, she got it, and then she says it works, and then I sent her the other email and the other video that says proper use instructions too, just in case, because once again the instruction manual is not quite as good and detailed as I would like it to be. So now we got this assembled properly, we can turn it on, and it turns on. So both these machines are slow RPM juicers or low RPM juicers. They run at approximately 80 RPM or revolutions per minute. Because they run so slow, they're also very quiet, which is really nice. First thing I want to point out is the feed chute size. So this is the pusher for this feed chute. This feed chute is about double the size of the Omega 8006. In my opinion, that is actually a benefit. You could actually juice a little bit quicker. You don't have to do as much cutting of certain items, although you do have to cut other ones. So that I kind of like it. And the Omega Vert is more self-feeding than the 8006. The 8006, you really have to sit there, and you'll see as I'm pushing the sunflower sprouts in there, you really got to kind of push them in, whereas the sunflower sprouts, if I get it just right, I could drop them in, and they'll really get sucked in by the machine. So I personally like the Vert a little bit more than this machine overall, but you know, once again, just because I like it doesn't mean it's the best. The best juicer for you is a juicer that's going to best meet your needs, and we're going to see how this works with sprouts, and maybe you're going to want to juice a lot of sunflower sprouts because you're going to be growing them in your kitchen year-round. And if so, you probably want to go with the 8006, but let's see how this juice off goes. First, I guess let's start juicing in the 8006. Turn this machine on, and once again, we're going to open this bag of sprouts and feed in just a little bit at a time. Now, I always encourage you to get the freshest produce as possible, including the sprouts. You know, I once juiced a whole flat of wheatgrass in both the 8006 and the Vert, and I have a video on YouTube showing that. And I mean, both machines worked with no problem, but the 8006 actually yielded more. But I have customers even emailing me, and today, John, I'm trying to juice wheatgrass, it's not working. I'm like, well, what are you doing different than what I did? The main thing is that they had pre-bought wheatgrass from the store that's been in the refrigerator. So once produce is fresh harvested, you know, the nutrients go down a little bit, plus also what I call plant rigor mortis sets in. And I can only describe this to you if you ever had a fresh tomato out of your garden and bought a tomato, right? Big difference in texture and also flavor. So we want to eat the freshest foods as we can, and even grow your own wheatgrass and sprouts, you know, if you can. Actually, well, you can, you just need to learn how. So you can see here this feed chute's kind of small. We got to just push this in, and this is probably going to take me a while. So actually, these sunflower sprouts, we are getting a lot of juice, and actually we're not getting any pulp out yet. It's quite amazing. Now, in general, I don't necessarily recommend drinking straight sprout juice or straight wheatgrass juice. It can be very, what I would consider hardcore. This is going to taste really strong, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And so normally what I would recommend is that you juice the sprouts or the wheatgrass with something else. So wheatgrass with carrots, or sunflower greens and carrots. And then what you would do is you would put a handful of sunflower greens in the machine, then you would put a carrot into the machine. And I definitely know the Omega Vert juicer is optimized for juicing hard fibrous things such as carrots and things like that, and not necessarily the sprouts, although it will do it. It'll do it a lot better if you juice a handful of sprouts and then a carrot. On the Omega 8006, it doesn't care. You can put anything in anytime you want, and it's just going to do its job in juice without too much thinking involved. That's where the learning curve of the Vert comes in. Still juicing in the Omega 8006. Maybe we're halfway done if I'm lucky. So as fast as you can shove the sprouts in there is as fast as the juicer will juice. It's this juicer is very forgiving with feeding or anything, whereas the Vert, it's a little bit picky. So you know, you may need to slow down when juicing certain items, or you may run into a backup condition. I think I got a few more handfuls of sprouts, and then we'll be back at you with the results. So far, so good. This thing is working really well on the sunflower greens. I mean, this is the pulp, and this is fairly dry pulp. I could barely press any liquid out of it. And if you want, on the Omega 8006, you can actually take that pulp and run it back through the machine for further extraction. I'm not going to do that today because that would mess up the results of our juice off. So I think we're almost done juicing all these sunflower sprouts in the Omega 8006. I got about one more handful, I believe. I think we got it. All right, there we go. We got one empty bag right here coming up, and we're going to go ahead and push the rest of these sprouts in there. Now, I do want to mention that both these machines are fairly silent, so if you do need to juice in the morning when your family's still asleep and you're going to work, you could definitely do that because they are quiet. Other machines may run at high RPMs, and they're going to be a little bit more loud. Now, both these machines come with their own collection cups. You can see the Vert collection cups are a lot larger than the Omega 8006 collection cups. And man, this is definitely some dry pulp for sunflower greens. I'm quite impressed. Next, let's start juicing in the Omega Vert 350 HD. The HD stands for 8 heavy duty. Now the Vert 350 HD and the Vert 350 are identical. The only difference is sometimes I add the HD into it because the HD is like given. 350 model always has the heavy duty screen. Now I think juicing in the HD is going to be easier because there's a much larger feed chute. We're going to go ahead and turn this guy on, and we're just going to shove these in to the machine a little bit at a time. Look at that, it almost sucks those in actually, really easy. I don't even got to use a pusher. This is my kind of juicer right here. Hopefully it does a good job and it produces a good yield on these sprouts here. So you can already see we're starting to get some juice here. While we're juicing in the Omega Vert, why don't we talk about the cleaning time? So the Omega 8006 takes me about 1.5 minutes to clean. I tend to clean quick, like I talk quick. So it may take you a little bit longer. The Omega Vert takes me under 3 minutes to clean, so the cleaning time is about double. So it may also be double for you, whether it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to clean this. It's going to be about double the time for the Vert. So that may be a consideration that you want to keep in mind before selecting a juicer. That's going to be best for you. Alright, so far so good. We're getting a lot of the juice out of the Omega Vert, but I don't see any pulp coming out yet. Alright, the juice continues to flow out of the Vert, and there's still no pulp coming out. So if you're putting a lot of stuff in and stuff's not coming out, guess what? Stuff has to go somewhere. So it's probably getting backed up here inside the machine, which is probably not a good thing. What I might recommend, and in the future, I might want to pre-cut the sprouts. That might help it feed it through the machine. Or once again, if you fit in like a handful of sprouts and then like a nice long carrot, it's going to work a lot better. So this is what I would call, Omega Vert torture test. And actually, this is why I don't recommend the Vert for, juicing like all sprouts or mostly sprouts. And I'd recommend the 8006. At this point, it's not really sucking the greens in anymore because it's so backed up. So now we're just going to have to use the pusher to push them in. And it's still taking them in, but I can see down the chute, it's just full of sprouts. So we're going to continue to keep on juicing, see what happens. Oh, we finally got a little bit of pulp getting ejected out of the Omega Vert finally. So we're just about done juicing the sprouts in the Omega Vert. Let's take out this paper thing. And we got 2 sprouts that fell here. And let's go ahead and dump the rest of these sprouts in there. Alright, so now we got 1 empty bag there, and we'll push the rest of these guys in. Alright, so finally the juice is coming out, and yes, we're starting to get a little bit of pulp, but I think most of the sprouts are going to be left inside the machine, because once again, Check out all the pulp we got in the Omega 8006, and you know, I mean, hardly any pulp came out of the Omega Vert machine. I guess we're gonna go ahead and stop the machine now, and we're gonna check the results. Actually, you know, it actually looks like it did make a fair bit of juice there. We're gonna go ahead and take our collection cup, and let's see, we're gonna tip this up a little bit, see if there's any extra juice in there. Just a little bit. We're gonna then tip this one. Oh, and yep, there's more juice in there as well. So let's go ahead and line these two containers up so you guys could see how much juice was created. So once again, this is the juice out of the 8006. Gonna pour that in. Look at that nice consistency, pulp-free juice there. Wow. So that's definitely a huge difference on the yields. So on the Omega Vert machine, it produced almost 8 ounces, and on the Omega 8006 it probably produced 11 ounces. So that's actually a significant difference in the yield. Once again, this is why I recommend the 8006 or the 8000 series for juicing more sprouts, wheatgrass, and leafy greens. That being said, as you can see, the Omega Vert did juice those items. It's just not going to yield a lot of juice. Plus, it's going to make a backup situation. So, for example, if I try to juice 2 pounds of the sprouts like I just did the 1 pound, you're just asking for trouble, because we'll take it apart and I'll show you guys what's going on inside there. First, I want to show you for reference what's going on inside the Omega 8006. So we could take this apart here, and as you can see on the screen, this is where the juice comes out, and this is the pulp, residual pulp. We'll take that and throw it in there. And we can take the auger out. So here's the auger and the screen, and inside this machine you can see there's, you know, just a little bit of pulp on the end of the machine, and you know, there is some pulp inside the screen, and you know, that is completely normal to have some residual excess in there. On the Omega Vert, on the other hand, we're going to go ahead and take this apart, and what you're going to see inside here is on this auger and on this screen, it is just full. I mean, that's where all the sprouts went. They just plain up didn't get juiced, and that's why the yield was less. And look at that. That's just all the sprouts that didn't get juiced. Now, you got to ask yourself, why is that happening, John? I mean, I thought the juicers are meant to juice. Well, you know, I've been to Korea, to the factory where they make these, and you know, they don't juice sunflower sprouts in their tests. They usually juice things like carrots and apples. So, you know, if you want to juice a lot of carrots and apples, the Vert's going to do a great job. If you try to juice a lot of carrots and apples and a handful of sprouts here and there, or leafy greens, it's also going to do a great job. But the problem arises when you try to do a lot of sprouts or things like wheatgrass, you know, and the results maybe aren't as good as they should be. So in this case, what I would recommend if you want to juice a lot of wheatgrass and sprouts, you want to go with the 8006. Once again, if you want to juice a lot of carrots, because as you saw, the feeding on the Omega Vert was a lot easier than the 8006, you might want to go with the Vert. I do have many other videos on YouTube comparing these two models, including my granddaddy video. I think it's over a half hour, where I compare all the vertical models and all the single auger horizontal models against each other, and after that video you should know which juicer is going to be the best for you. So how can you avoid this from occurring if you have the Omega Vert or are thinking about the Omega Vert? Well, you can avoid a backup situation, whether it's wheatgrass, carrots, or anything, by number one, slowing down. What I find is many people try to juice too quickly in the Omega Vert using the pusher to push things in. The pusher should only be used to unjam things that aren't going into the machine because it's stuck, not to feed things in. You should only drop things into the Vert and let it work and give it some time to work. Another thing that may be helpful is getting the freshest produce possible. Once again, a lot of the things I juice in my videos are actually from my front yard garden, fresh picked. The fibers are much softer than produce that has been shipped across the country and that's like a week old. Plant rigor mortis sets in. Another thing that's very important is to pre-cut, especially your vegetables. You don't really need to pre-cut things like carrots, but you do need to pre-cut celery and greens. I have, once again, excellent videos on YouTube explaining the process that I use to get successful results in the Omega Vert every single time. Another thing you want to do is rotate the produce you're putting in. So I talked about this a little bit earlier. Put a carrot in, put a handful of wheatgrass, put a carrot, put a handful of wheatgrass. Don't just put all the wheatgrass and then all the carrots. It's not going to work too well. I think with those tips, you may be able better to juice these items in the Omega Vert. But once again, the reason why I make all these videos is to educate you guys on what juicer is going to be the best for you. Because if I like the Vert overall, but guess what? I rarely juice this many sprouts in one sitting, and if I did, I would actually mix it with cucumber, apple, and celery. And once again, you do need to chop the celery up actually into like 1/4 or 1/8 inch slices when juicing celery in the Vert, or it will also get jammed up and you'll find a lot of pulp. You'll have the green monster auger, so don't get the green monster auger. You want to chop things up so that everything moves on through, so your auger is fairly clean when actually you're done juicing. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, learning more about the different models and which juicer best juices the sunflower greens. Once again, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.